Good afternoon and welcome back to this first day of the virtual edition of the North Central Regional Land Grant Conference. Hope you found this morning's content and informational, interesting, and from my viewpoint even somewhat challenging on how we continue to meet our mission for the land grant university system. We're going to continue this afternoon with focusing on future opportunities, and Dr. Marshall Stewart's going to lead us in that discussion. Dr. Stewart came to the University of Missouri in 2016. It only seems like it was longer ago. He took on the position of the Vice Chancellor of Extension and Engagement, and a couple of years later in 2018 also assumed the duties of the Chief Engagement Officer for the University of Missouri system, which put him in a position to connect engagement from our entire university system, which includes our St. Louis campus, Kansas City campus, and the University of Science and Technology down at Rolla. Dr. Stewart?
Thank you, H.C. It's good to be with you, and I want to start by saying how much I appreciate H.C. Russell and Megan Kaiser for their great work as our co-host. We were very intentional in our efforts to really highlight the important role that our CARET representatives play, not only for the University of Missouri, but for the whole North Central region. And I really appreciate their willingness to step into that. I know that's not something H.C. or Megan do every day in their lives, but I'm grateful to them for their willingness to do that. And I want to say a word about the CARET organization and how important it is. I know it was mentioned several times this morning in different presentations, but clearly these advocates are so important to our land grant system. And I want to again highlight the important role they play for advocating for teaching, research, and extension work across the land grant system. The Mini Land Grant is proud to be here, and we're proud to have you at the University of Missouri. It is our joy to host this year and to have a great team that has put this together. I want to thank those across the region who worked with Shabu Jose and I to put this program together. I do want to thank my colleague Shabu Jose, who you'll hear a little bit later from. He serves as Associate Dean of Research in the College of Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources. And together, along with lots of great input from across the region, we've tried to put together a program that we hope is meeting the mark of what we could do the best we could in terms of a virtual environment. I will tell you that I'm glad we went virtual because going virtual as of today was really important because we're all having to wear a mask again here at our university. I think other universities are following suit. So it would have been quite a challenge to have all of you on campus, but we're proud that I think this morning we had about 190 people tune in this morning, and those are good numbers, and we're appreciative of all those who have joined us for various parts of the program. We know others will be joining as we go along. I also want to thank our University of Missouri Extension team who works behind the scenes, the communicators that you don't get to see in front of the camera, but this doesn't happen without a lot of help and a lot of work. And when things pop up that they have to deal with, and those of us who are not professionals at doing this do less than professional work sometimes, they certainly make us look good, and I want to thank all those that have been involved in that. I am very pleased today to have a guest that's going to be joining us. We are very glad to know that a lot of leaders want to join us. This morning you had Dr. Winterstein from Iowa State University, Moon Choi, our president of the University of Missouri system, and also the University of Missouri Columbia. And now to kind of follow suit and continue that in terms of some really high-ranking leaders that lead land-grant universities and have also leadership in partner organizations. One of those great partners we have is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute for Food and Agriculture, which all of us are very familiar with. Obviously, they're critical to our mission and our work that we do in research, extension, and teaching. And we're very grateful for them. And so it would make great sense for us to have with us today someone who certainly is no stranger to any of us and is continuing to do great work across the system and has brought great leadership in that regard. So we're in the process now of trying to get her online. She is not here yet. I'm looking at our director here. But as goes with any of these kind of things, you have to pivot and do some things differently. So while they're trying to bring her link up to get her online, what I'm going to do is pivot over to my colleague, H.C. Russell, as we prepare for that. And I'm going to ask him to give us a wide shot here. And H.C., I want you to talk to me just a minute as we do that, a little bit about what it means to be a CARET rep. I know you serve on the North Central board or committee there. Tell us a little bit of what it means to be a CARET rep and what it's meant to you to be a part of that organization.
Oh, thanks, Marshall. I'm currently finishing my 8th year as a delegate for the University of Missouri Extension. It has been the first and foremost a very wide eye-opener, and then because of the interaction we have with other delegates and other administrators from around the country, the other thing is it's good to be home, and by that I mean finding and interacting with other people that have a passion for extension education and research, and I like to say discovery and dissemination. We're partnered with those people that are the folks in the trenches actually doing the work, and as delegates, we're advocates. We're simply trying to enable them. We're trying to pave the road for them, try to attract some resources that makes meeting that mission possible.
So HC, as you've worked in that role and you've had the opportunity, I know, to go to DC and we've been together, what's been some of the highlights of that experience as you've gone to DC and advocated for, in your role, extension, but also with our colleagues in research as well?
One of the most interesting things that came to me was a little surprising. I know here in the North Central District, we're predominantly an agricultural region. So I should have realized this or expected it, but the first time I was there and found out that people in our Missouri delegation, our congressional delegation, had staff people that focused on ag policy and knew as much as I did at that time about what we were asking for and what it was worth and how we needed to advance it and make it forward. That's one of the most gratifying things, was first of all to meet the other Carrot delegates, find people with that same desire and passion to make the world a better place through this way, and then find that we had people in our corner working in the congressional offices that were also a part of that, and many times we need to educate them a little bit, but most of the time we're there to thank them for their help and provide a few details and things that might smooth the road for them as well.
Do you find that as you prepare to be a delegate, obviously through Carrot, obviously I know you followed one of our great leaders here, Ed Turner, who was before you, and Ed was a great mentor. Do you find that mentoring to be important?
I do, and first of all, you mentioned Ed Turner. I was so fortunate. Ed had forgotten more about advocacy than I would probably ever known. Early in his career, he was a congressional chief of staff, and he had that kind, generous, giving mentality that he would share anything that he knew of or thought of, and I never asked him a question that he thought was too far down. And believe me, I tested some of the basic levels of information needed. I was fortunate to have that in the home state. We also have a mentoring program where we try to team up new Carrot delegates with existing Carrot delegates that are not within their state, so they have that tie to the organization a little larger, and try to help them change their starting point on where you start your advocacy journey at that level. If the more somebody knows walking in the room, the better their questions, the better they're informed, the better they're able to serve in the mission. So that Carrot mentoringship has been a really good feature.
Well, I know that's one of the things that the Carrot organization is looking at now, is how to really advance and get more people involved in Carrot. I was a part of a strategic planning process that some of your colleagues have been leading across the country, and one of the things we talked about in that is that mentoring is so important, and bringing people along and helping them get comfortable in that space. And I've watched you, you're a pro at it now. When you go into congressional offices, I just kind of stand in the back and watch you go at it, but that doesn't happen automatically. What are some things, maybe something that you've had to learn or adapt to as you've been in those environments where you don't work every day at MFA? You know, that's your day job, but then we get you for free basically on our side. What are the kind of things that you've maybe something you've had to learn or adapt to in that?
One of the things I had to learn, we all learned early that personalizing your experience with the College of Agriculture, Research, and Extension, personalizing that makes it matter to legislators who are trying to serve their constituents. They sincerely want to do the best they can for them. One of the things that I had to learn also was that their time is also very valuable, and while we hope to get a chance to share some of that personal interaction, getting to the point with them pretty quickly in the discussion is very helpful to them and helpful to us, because then they understand why we're there, and it gives them an opportunity to ask the questions so we can fill in the blanks that they may not know. So I'd say being bold enough to ask for what what we need to accomplish the mission is probably the thing that I needed the most work on. Probably still need some on.
Well, and I think we all do. I think one of the things that we've always faced, and I know we're very fortunate in Missouri that we have a delegation that really, truly, I've never been in an office yet that people didn't understand what we do. That's built on history, people before my time for sure. But I know in many states that's not true. You're constantly have to educate or maybe bring new people along, and definitely as there's turnover in Congress in particular, there's a need for that. And I know one of the things that you've seen is the important role of getting to know staffers. You want to talk about that a little bit? Because sometimes you don't even see the legislator themselves.
Exactly, and the staffer is not necessarily the decision maker, but they're the information gatherer and the organizer, and most of them, that's where I came back to. Many of those staffers I found out knew more about the NIFA ask than I was prepared to share with them those first few years, because they were into the nuts and bolts. They'd done their preparation work. They'd been there before. They weren't there. That wasn't their first day on the job like it would have been for all of us at one time. So the staff are absolutely critical in the communication part that we need to try to help serve our mission.
Yeah. Well, I know, HC, you've been through a lot, and I know before you became a CARE delegate, you were a member of our local extension council. You were part of that organization. I think it'd be good for folks to kind of understand that part of the journey and then how you moved up into the CARE role.
So the University of Missouri has a county council in each of our counties, and they're elected, and the election's a little complex. I won't get into that, but it continues to astonish me the number of us that walk into the room our first time as a county council member, and we find out extension is more than 4-H and a little bit of livestock. At least that's the way it was for me. So getting involved in the fiscal discipline needed to help programming at your local area, and also then start fostering relationships with those local funding partners. And part of that also comes back to helping determine needs of the county and how our staff and faculty will help meet some of those needs. So we have that organization here in Missouri, and much like our state legislature, we have term limits. So we elect somebody for a 2-year term, we kind of get them up to speed, and then they get on for another 2 years, and we really get to use them and benefit from their service, and then we kick them off. And they need to stay off a year or two before they can come back out, on. So we have a bit of a revolving door, but we also are able to educate and bring a lot of people on board as long-term advocates for us.
Yeah, and I know that's something that we're always trying to build that pipeline of people, and I know that you have been really critical to us here at Mizzou of helping us identify talent and people who have a passion and that want to come alongside of us, whether it be in extension or research or teaching that mission, to encourage folks to get along and come along and be with us in that mission. And as you sit where you do, what do you see on the horizon? What would be your hope, dream for the future of our work as a part of the Land Grant University?
Oh, boy, that's
a big question.
That was broad. The need for research, for basic research, needs consistent advocacy for the long term. People are so far removed from their food for the most part that they take it for granted, and part of that's the success of our production system. We've made it affordable enough that they can take it for granted, but we have to continue to push for innovation. We talk about the challenges of our time, climate change, population, distribution of food. Every one of those has some solutions, not the solution, but some solutions available through more research. And of course, once we've done the research, continuing to get it out into the field. One of the biggest challenges on the extension side, I think, is maintaining the understanding of that being the credible voice, because there are so many other voices there from the social platforms, that part of which I can pronounce and part of which I can't, and the news feeds that come from so many directions that are not fact checked. They're thrown out there for an audience, and being able to reach our citizens and have them have confidence in this being their credible voice. This is the source they can go to for real research, evidence-based information that will help affect them in whatever whether it be their work or their family.
Yeah, and I know that in our experiences here, helping you, as I said earlier, we're just very fortunate. So many of the staffers, the elected officials do understand it, but you got to continue that educational process. It's not a one and done. You can't take it for granted. Things are always changing. And one of the things that we find, and I know it's true in all states, regardless of North Central region or any region, is that relationship building. And you constantly having to build those relationships. And I know you've been a great advocate in that space as well of doing that. So as you build relationships, any thoughts on what the importance is as you get to know a new legislator or a new staffer? How do you go about that process? How does that work?
That's a challenge that we face here in Missouri, even differently than many would, because of the rapid turnover we have. We have term limits for our state legislators here in Missouri, and I know there are other states that have term limits, but I think I understand that our term limit calendar is faster than theirs. We turn them over faster, which means we're in that education process early and often. So to establish that relationship, or how we utilize that relationship to the benefit of our institution and to meet our mission, to start with, I remember hearing a legislator that was campaigning once that said, if you want to change somebody's mind after they're elected, you've waited too late, because whatever they were saying while they were running for office, their election was an endorsement of that. So the first thing we really need to do to establish that relationship is meet these people at home, back in our communities, even while or even before they're running. And it's those relationships, because the relationship, you start to establish a little bit of trust, and then your message becomes more credible. And the other thing, from a more mercenary standpoint, if someone's not talking about education or research or funding for land-grant institutional mission on the campaign trail, we hope to educate them so they will, because whatever they were saying when they're running, most of them are going to stay fairly consistent, because that election was an endorsement of what their message was in the campaign. So the first step is ideally start that relationship before they're ever elected.
Yeah, and I know one of the things you touched on there that we have truly found is that there used to be a lot of emphasis in all of our states of going to the Capitol, U.S. or state, and we still do that, do both, and it has a place. But so much of the work and the relationship needs to be done locally. In fact, there's so much noise in a state capitol or in certainly the federal capitol, in terms of just so many people, so many advocates coming in at one time, and there's just such a crush of information that you oftentimes get lost in that. And so having those very intentional relationships that tie back to that local constituent, back to that home, is so important. And I know I've seen you do that as we've entertained folks at ball games and other events that we've had on campus. I mean, we've been really quick to invite HC and Megan as well to be a part of those events, because your role in talking about things is just different than me. I mean, I get paid to do this. I'm on the payroll. I'm part of the infrastructure here. But when the advocate does that, that's really important, and that's something that I think oftentimes can get lost in the weeds. So, any last thoughts? We're gonna wrap this up and move with our program. But any last thoughts as you think about being a Carrot rep, or anything you would want to share with the group?
It's been, to this point, kind of a humbling honor to get to be a spokesperson for a mission that is that meaningful. So look forward to the rest of the afternoon.
Well, that is really great, HC. I want to thank you again for hanging in here with me. HC and I have just shown you how to dance. If you didn't notice, we were dancing strong there. But didn't HC do a good job? I know if you could give him an applause, you would, because he had no idea I was going to do that, but he pulled it off flawlessly. So with that, we're going to go to our guests. And I see Dr. Castille, I see you on the image. I can see you now. I hope you can see me. And that's a smile I see, so I'm assuming that is coming up now. We are really glad to bring Dr. Carrie Castille with us. Let me just say a few words about her as we get started. Obviously, most of you know that a little over a year ago, she took this job on. She's been on a terrific job of meeting lots of stakeholders, lots of interactions. I know a lot of meetings that I have been in have had the opportunity to see her, although we haven't met personally yet. It's all been via Zoom or some kind of technology connection. So she came in at a very interesting time, but has a great history, degrees from her home state of Louisiana, Louisiana Lafayette, I believe, first of all, and then going on to Louisiana State University, that fine land grant, those other tigers that we do claim in the SEC. But a wonderful history, a wonderful career that she has, and we are just grateful to have her now as a part of our land grant system in this role as NIFA Director. And Dr. Castille, I'm glad to have you today. Can you hear me now?
So thank you for giving me a few minutes in your busy schedule today to give you a few quick highlights from NIFA. I'd like to spend most of my time listening and getting feedback from you, so I'll be brief. So over the past 7 months since I joined NIFA, I've had the most enormous pleasure of working hand in hand with some of the most dedicated, innovative people in our field to create the NIFA of the future. Over the next 6 months, you're going to see a renewed organization that's going to emerge that will be the leading federal agency in ag innovation. Just like last week, we announced a major investment in a joint effort with the National Science Foundation to pump $220 million into 11 new artificial intelligence institutes. 3 of them are right here in your region, 1 at Iowa State and 2 at Ohio State. Coupled with the 2 AI institutes created in this program last year at the University of Illinois, Urbana, you're quickly creating enormous research capacity in this growing area of science. As our leadership team worked over the past few weeks to move the NIFA budget priorities forward, I've had time to reflect and focus on all the ideals that are part of the agency and what makes NIFA unique, not just among all USDA agencies, but among all federal agencies. And what's most unique about NIFA is you, our partners. No other agency has the national research, education, and extension infrastructure that you can bring to us as our partners in this unparalleled science powerhouse. No other agency has the deep roots of extension to reach into every community across the nation to create change and make a real difference in the lives of Americans from every background at every age. I have yet to see an agency that has the unyielding stakeholder support and true dedicated partnership that NIFA has from you. And for that, I sincerely thank you. We hope to see support for NIFA programs, capacity, and vision continue to grow when a new Undersecretary of Research, Education, and Economics is in place soon. Many of you have likely heard that last week, Acting Undersecretary and longtime Administrator of the Agricultural Research Service, Dr. Shabanda Jacobs-Young, was nominated for the position. She has returned to her position in ARS while awaiting Senate confirmation. And she knows NIFA very, very well for having worked for the agency for some time as a national program leader. We look forward to the strong leadership and experience she will bring to the mission area. I'm not going to give you a budget update since that's probably going to be covered somewhere later in your program. However, there's quite progress in 2 programs, which you may not have noticed, but I'm pretty excited about. We propose an increase in the Sustainable Agricultural Research and Education Program, or SARE, of about $20 million, raising the funding from $40 million to $60 million. The House marked it up at $50 million. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's a 25% increase in an extremely effective grower-driven research and education program. The House also marked up the Minor Crop Pest Management Program, known as the Interregional Research Program, or IR4, for a 17.5% increase. The last time that program saw an even small increase was in 2014. And even though a 2017 Michigan State study showed that the IR4 program annually contributes $9.4 billion to the U.S. gross domestic product, we wanted a bigger increase, but I'll take 17.5% for a program that's that effective. At NIFA, we continue to search for innovative funding opportunities we can provide you with the Secretary's priorities for climate-smart agriculture and forestry, nutrition security, a resilient and robust agricultural supply chain, a thriving rural economy, and equity and access and opportunities. So here's where we are. In climate-smart agriculture and forestry, we developed and activated a focused NIFA working group. Megan O'Rourke is the new National Science Liaison for that critical area. We're educating the administration about the work you already do in this area in plant breeding for climate tolerance, water conservation, and precision irrigation research and extension, AI and precision ag, and many, many more. Nutrition security. Today, Dr. Suzanne Sluka became the new Deputy Director for the Institute of Food Safety and Nutrition. A focus working group led by National Science Liaison Sheila Fleischacker is taking on an all-of-NIFA approach to highlight all we do together to address nutrition security in America, including programs like FNAP, BFRDP, research to enhance storage, shipping, and preservation of the food that we produce, and addressing policy and trade issues that can be barriers to getting the food where it's needed. Also, shoring up the agricultural supply chain. The EXCITE program, that is a vital new partnership between NIFA, Cooperative Extension, and the CDC to promote vaccine education in hard-to-reach communities, is a critical link, keeping farm workers, our processors, and our service workers healthy and safe on the job. We're also exploring how we use all research and extension tools and techniques to ramp up supply in an environmentally sound way. The adaptability of cooperative extension, particularly in the North Central states, never ceases to amaze me. One of my staff called my attention to a Wisconsin-developed program for dairy farmers titled Becoming the Employer of Choice. This program was developed in 2017 with the help of the North Central Risk Management Program, but the current tight labor market has breathed new life into it based on the needs of today's agricultural producers. This and the other work that you do for our agricultural producers contributes to one of the other Secretary's priorities, which is building a thriving rural economy. Again, one of those keys to ensuring a strong rural economy is containing the pandemic. Keeping the agricultural production workforce healthy, and EXCITE is playing a major role. We must support training and education for the talent needed for the next generation of agricultural scientists and leaders, both in our classrooms and in our extension programs. Partnering with community colleges and rebuilding our national 4-H headquarters staff at NIFA are also vital for preparing leaders and attracting talent to agriculture. I'm sure that some of you are familiar with the Farm Business Management Benchmarking Program, and I know the folks at the University of Minnesota are. It maintains and expands a national, publicly available farm financial management database to help producers better manage their operations. However, what about the next generation of that kind of program? What if agricultural producers had a publicly available space run by the land-grant university system where they could share and compare data from their combine monitors and other precision agricultural tools? We're working with the University of Nebraska to form a network of land-grant universities that could host that type of data cooperative. It's just an idea right now, but think about how powerful a network like that could be. And it wouldn't be controlled by some equipment company, but by land-grant universities to ensure everyone has an opportunity to access it. Equity and access and opportunities. We're close to being fully staffed in our EEO office. We brought in Michael Matthews on detail from USDA Rural Development as a National Science Liaison to work with the MSIs, including our 1994 land-grant tribal colleges, to ensure we're offering the level of support and encouragement needed for these vital institutions to thrive. We've learned a lot from your efforts in this area across the North Central region, where we've seen some of the best examples of land-grant collaborations in the nation. Since moving to Kansas City at NIFA, we're continuing to build our staff, not just the number of people, but bringing the very best people in the country to do the job and provide the visionary leadership that you deserve from us. We have about 220 experts on board now, and will complete a hiring sprint to bring in more than 50 staff before the end of the fiscal year. At the end of June, we had 100% of the capacity grants awarded far earliest than years in the past. And we have close to 80% of all funding awarded today, with 2 months left in the fiscal year. We've been able to reach these milestones because of the dedication and the innovation of our staff. I want to say a special thank you to Jeff Jacobson and Robin Shepard and the whole North Central region for initiating the LGU2U initiative. It's been an invaluable service to our NIFA staff to help them develop a deeper understanding of the awesome work that you do and the role and responsibility NIFA has in helping you succeed. I look forward to the day when we can get our staff out to your campuses and we can see your workforce firsthand. As we're working to staff up, we have been very reliant on the talented workforce of the North Central region. We know that getting hired into the federal government isn't easy and it can be daunting. We ask that you encourage your students to check out the USDA's Pathways internship and hiring programs for recent college graduates to join the NIFA staff. We value and need their fresh ideas as we build the NIFA of the future, and it's a great entry point into a career in federal service. Recently, I came across a beautiful passage that I haven't read in a long time. Many of you will recognize it or may know it well, but I want to end today with just a few lines from the Extension Professionals Creed, written in 1922. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance toward the views of others. I believe that extension is a link between the people and the ever-changing discoveries in the laboratories. I believe in the public institutions of which I am a part of. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. Because I believe these things, I'm an extension professional. While this was written to signify the creed of extension work, I think we can all agree that it applies to all of us who have the great honor to work in agriculture and with and for the land-grant university system. I know it's how I feel about the tremendous opportunity to serve you in this powerhouse of science that we create together. So as we move into the Q&A portion, I'd like to ask for your help and feedback in one particular area. We're in the early stages of revisiting the NIFA structure, and we are asking three very important questions. Does the structure best serve our stakeholders? Does it serve you best? Does it function well for the agency? Is it nimble enough to support key priorities? We hope that you're going to provide your input on these important questions so we don't make changes just for change's sake, but make strategic alterations with a designed outcome that is better for you, better for NIFA, and better serves the American people. If you have ideas, please share them. And here's a great opportunity on this meeting. If you'd like to think about it and share them in writing with us later, that's good too. We just need to hear from you. So we're making decisions that serve you and our best mutual interest. Thank you for the time, and I look forward to your input.
Thank you, Dr. Castille, and glad to have you with us today. Always good to hear your words, and again, after hearing your comments on several occasions now, there's a consistency of message. And I was thinking about your questions this morning, and what I'm going to do is restate those just so people can be thinking about those, because we would love to hear from people if they have a value add or something they want to add to or a comment. The three questions she left you with was, does this structure serve our stakeholders? Is it doing the job? So if there's something about structure. Another question was, does it function well is it functioning well? What are the functional things that you'd like to see improved? And then again, the idea of it being more nimble. Is it nimble enough? Is it flexible enough? And as you've already heard her talk about the speed with which they're getting money out to the universities as an example, and I want to compliment you on that. On the receiving end of that, that's a good thing. So we're really glad to see money moving fast, and thank you for your efficiency and a great team. There was three words though that really stuck in my mind as you were talking, and I was making some notes here, and they were about staff. Obviously, you were trying to get the right people in the right seats on the bus, etc. So staffing, I heard you talk about that. I also heard you talk about speed, that nimbleness of turning things around quickly. And then the third one was service, that you want to be an organization that truly lives up servant leadership. So you want to talk a minute about that, because I know you're trying to recruit new people, you're trying to find talent. I know you're trying to, again, be a service-oriented place and then be one with speed and agility. Talk to us a little bit about how you're going about that, because I think people would really be interested in how someone in a government agency is trying to move those kind of things forward.
Sure. So thank you so much. So staffing, what we've done is we've basically worked with all of our deputy directors, but we've gone across the agency to identify what types of positions, what are the areas of expertise that we need, and what's that cross collaboration, not only within NIFA, but also with our partners. We know that you have asked for national programmatic leadership. So to your point about getting money out of the door faster, that's absolutely critical. It really, really is. But we also know that you've asked for the value-added benefits. Again, what are the things that we need to do to best serve you and best provide you with the leadership, especially when it comes to these 5 priority areas? So we're taking a deep dive. We want to make sure that we're hearing from you. Things may look a little different. We have the courage to be able to look at the organization, be able to say, what are the things that we need to do, and what are the changes that we may need to make? We're looking at hiring data analysts. This is the first time that we've brought these types of folks into NIFA to be able to help us make better decisions. We also are looking at technological tools like our dashboards. We want everyone within NIFA to have access to that information to make better, more efficient, and more impactful information, more impactful programs and decisions. So we're doing a lot. For me, it's not about every time that I look at an opportunity to be able to hire someone, I want to make sure that I'm seeing our partners. I want to see those folks in our partners and be able to connect very, very quickly. What's the impact that we can have within this partnership that we have? Does that answer your question?
It sure does. Great answer. And I know that you were a carrot rep at one time in your history. I read that, and I've heard you talk about that. I've got H.C. Russell here with me. H.C. is one of our carrot reps from the University of Missouri. So I'm going to let H.C. have the next question. H.C., you got a question?
So yes, since obviously the position you are now is in the missional actions you're engaged in are the very ones that we carrot delegates are trying to help enable. We're trying to draw and attract resources for that. Knowing that you have served as a carrot delegate way back in the past and are now in this role, what do you know now that you wish you had known as you were a carrot delegate that would have made your job better now, that would have met our mission of attracting more resources for your organization?
You know, I think the biggest thing for me when I served as a carrot delegate and relating that to the position now is being able to immediately point to the impact. If you have 15 minutes with a decision maker or 30 minutes and there we talk about the programs and we talk about the university, we need to be able to connect that impact to their constituents almost right off the bat. So it's the why. Why would you invest? Why would you advocate on our behalf for this particular program? Well, it's because of the impact. So if it's 4-H or if it's climate change or if it's addressing food insecurity, be able to immediately point to the impact.
Thank you.
Dr. Castille, another question just came in from one of our audience today is they were interested in the jobs that you guys are looking for, the positions you're looking at now, and they indicated that when they went on for, in particular, program leader jobs, they were looking at USA jobs, and it didn't really show any available right now. Are they looking at the wrong place? Need to go to a specific place to find more about that?
So thanks. I actually have Bill Hoffman. I have also Parag Chitnis, and then we have Deb Hammernick that's also, and I see that Bill Hoffman put something in the chat that says we have several positions, including national program leaders that close on Friday. So we have a number of different positions. I don't want you to think that because we have this 50-person hiring sprint that it ends September 30th. We still have a ways to go, and we want to make sure that we are bringing in as many folks as it takes to be able to best serve you. So I would continue to look online. I know that we send out an alert as well. Hopefully you're on that listserv, but we do have some opportunities. So if you have any questions, let us know. If you can't find them, let us know.
And I would add, I think any of us that work in our roles in the land-grant universities, if you are somebody out there that's looking and want to be guided to them, I know my colleagues, I'll speak for them, I think we'd all be glad to help you connect to those. So some wonderful opportunities, and you don't have to leave the Midwest. You can stay right here in the middle part of the country and do those jobs now. So what a good thing. One of the things I wanted to ask you about too, Dr. Castille, I know you've expressed in a couple of meetings I've been in, and you mentioned it today, the importance of 4-H. And I know our 4-H folks across the region as well as our carrot reps are very interested in that, and I'd love to hear maybe some thoughts or reflections that you have in terms of 4-H looking forward, and what would you like to see more of there in terms of NIFA and that relationship there?
Thanks. So as a farmer 4-H'er, I know the importance of the 4-H program. I showed livestock, was in Sew with Cotton, and attribute a lot of my career and the success of my career to 4-H. It really is very, very important to me that we have a strong 4-H and positive youth development effort. We are adding staff, so we have a national science liaison, Brent Elrod, who's going to be working in 4-H as well as economic development. We've brought in Maurice Smith full-time to be able to work as a national program leader in 4-H, as well as Jeff Salih. We talked about that we have a 4-H division leader position that, and Bill, you can probably maybe put in the chat when that opens or when it closes, but we're making sure that we're providing that leadership as well. We're bringing in IPAs to make sure that we are looking at diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility to not only all of our programs, but especially in 4-H. My goal is by the end of September, hopefully, we're going to look at about 12 to 15 folks within our 4-H headquarters that's going to be able to best serve you. We're really, really building a strong team. I meet every other week. In fact, after this meeting, I have a meeting with our 4-H team to be able to look at these opportunities like 4-H conference. What are the connections with climate? What are the connections with food insecurity? But also as our beginning farmers and ranchers. So I'm really, really excited about where we're going with 4-H. I know that I'm going to try to do as much as I can as alerting folks and keeping them up to date as to what we're doing. But we are committed, and I am committed to the success of the 4-H and positive youth development programs throughout the country.
And I know that's music to ears of people that work in youth development. I know they're glad to hear you say that, and the strong commitment and long history and legacy of history and heritage that 4-H certainly has as a part of not only extension, but the land grant system as a feeder for universities and higher education. With that, I'm going to go back to HC and see if he's got another question for you.
Dr. Castille, one of the things I found fascinating in your discussion, our first keynote speaker this morning, Dr. Winterstein from Iowa State University, talked about extreme collaboration, and I found myself losing track trying to count the number of collaborative efforts you were describing to us. That's a message that I think most of us are not as aware of as much as I'd like to. In advocacy work here in Missouri years ago, we used to run into the question from legislators that thought we were duplicating the efforts of other agencies. And what we had to try to do is say we may be collaborating with them. Do you have a suggestion for how we can make our funding partners more aware that we're actually collaborating and multiplying those figures, those dollar resources, less so than competing for them?
Yeah, I think the Excite program is an excellent example, partnering with CDC, making sure that we're providing the valuable information to be able to the rural communities to be able to make or allow folks to be able to make the best decisions. So the CDC program, I think, is absolutely critical. Within the mission area, I know ARS, ERS, and NAS, as well as the Office of the Chief Scientist, we're working collaboratively. One effort right now is we're looking at equity in science and those types of opportunities. The other thing, though, is coming from the rural development mission area as well as the FPAC mission area, there's some great opportunities for cross collaboration within RCS, with FSA. When I was the state director for rural development in Louisiana, I partnered very, very closely with the universities and really looked for those opportunities. We're all working on the same common goals. And for me, I think it's important to be able to emphasize that. I think we can maximize our ability to be able to serve the people with this cross collaboration and with this work that we do across mission areas, across federal departments, and across all of federal government.
Dr. Castille, I think a lot of, I know I'm looking at some of the questions that have been coming in. They're primarily back around this idea of wanting information or maybe wanting to share information directly with you or with others in your team. is there a way that they should best reach out to you if they want to send you a note or whatever? What's the best way to do that?
Reach out. And so, most of you have my email address. If you can't get in touch with me, you can get in touch with Dr. Hoffman or Dr. Chitness, or of course, Dr. Hammernick. But we really want to hear from you. It's been a priority for me as I took this job to be able to get feedback. And most folks will know that are part of NIFA that the way that we have our meetings and executive council with our all hands meetings, for every minute that you speak, we want every minute of input, right? We want a minute of input back. So if we're taking the topic like climate change and how we combat climate change, as we talk about our programs, we want to make sure that we're listening from our people as to how we can make those programs better. When it came to the budget, the FY23 budget formulation process, we wanted to reach out to you directly and get feedback. What are the research priorities? What are the extension priorities? What are the priorities that we need to advocate for and continue to amplify in our messaging as we formulate our budget? And then here, I think there's an opportunity, and I want to continue to hear from you as often as I possibly can. How are we doing? Have we missed the mark? And if we've missed the mark, how can we fix it? So there's going to be ample opportunities. I had asked Dr. Chitness, and he's working on that right now. Let's look at an outreach schedule. Let's go ahead and plan this out, regardless if it's virtual or if it's in person. The goal is to be able to listen and learn, and we want to respond.
Well, those are wonderful words, and I know all of our viewers that are tuning in and being a part of this today really appreciate your leadership. I know Bill Hoffman has put in some information where people can connect with him. And for those of you who don't know Bill Hoffman, I've worked personally with Bill Hoffman for a long time. Actually knew him prior to him going to USDA, so that shows how long I've known him. And he's one of those people that you truly can connect with, and as well as Dr. Chitness and others that you've mentioned, and I just really hope people will do that. As you think about, I know you've kind of hit on this a few times about your desire to really connect, and I think that's collaboration and leadership and partnerships really a part of the sort of the DNA that you want to bring into this relationship that you have with land grants, which is so important, whether it be in 1862 and 1890, 1994s, and also those institutions that are non-land grants, at publics that have agriculture. I mean, you work with a lot of institutions. I'm curious, though, as you look at on the horizon, obviously you sit in a pretty interesting seat now, and you see you're one of those people that we all look to say, what's on the horizon? What's next? And you've talked about some of that, climate, smart agriculture. You've touched on sustainability, some of those kind of issues. But are there any other things that you see that we need to be watching for on the horizon? What's out there that maybe we need to be thinking about, that maybe you're thinking, well, in a year or two, we may be dealing with that. So we'd be curious if you have any insights on that.
We've always focused on small farmers and supporting our small farmers, but there's a renewed interest in making sure that we're supporting our small farmers and ranchers, but also, our people of color as they look to develop programs, but they're also looking to get involved in agriculture. So that's one area. I continue to hear, and I'm engaged and really excited about the ideas of regional food systems. I think that's something that's going to be on the horizon as well. 4-H and positive youth development, I think we're going to see more opportunities, and we already are, to be able to plug in STEM related fields. And I know that that's a goal, but I think we're going to see a lot more opportunities within 4-H and positive youth development if it's partnering with like AmeriCorps Vista and those types of other programs, FFA. There's going to be tremendous opportunities for collaboration. I think the future is very, very bright. I think for us at NIFA, we want to make sure that we're re-emphasizing our commitment of partnership. We're delivering the service that you're asking us for, and we're staying true. One thing that I do want to mention is my desire to be able to look at cross-functionality. So not within just within cross disciplines, but also within the function. So LGU2U program was a great example of how we started within our grants management division to be able to look at kind of that foundational pillar of everything we do, which is the grants that we provide. Using that as cross-training was an excellent opportunity, and I think we're going to continue to see more of those opportunities with something like LGU2U. I really hope we can continue that, but really, again, looking at the cross-functionality, starting within that pillar, that foundational pillar, going to our programs, and then again, that cross-training. I think you have an excellent opportunity to be able to help train our NIFA workforce. It also provides you with an opportunity to network with some of the folks that run the programs that you're interested in. So that's another opportunity that I see.
Well, Dr. Castille, I want to thank you for your time today. I know we figured out how to get all connected here, and that's part of the world we live in today. And you have done a wonderful job of bringing us great insights, as always. And I just appreciate your leadership. I'll say not only for my colleagues across the North Central region, but I'll just say personally, it's great to have you where you are. Again, I look forward to the time that we can actually meet for the first time. I do know, I will say this just on a personal side, Dr. Castille was not a stranger to me, because once upon a time, before I did, I had the opportunity many years ago to go through a program called Food Systems Leadership Institute. And then I later led that program, and when I was leading that program, one of the many great alums that I saw as a part of that program, I think she was a class ahead of me, but she went through that program, and it's a great program offered by APLU, and many in our region have done it. So I knew her name, and then it pops up in this role, and I'm like, wow, we've done well, we've done very well. So Dr. Castille, thank you again for joining the North Central region today and the mini land grant, and I want to thank your great team for their extra efforts around 12 o'clock noon Central today to make this thing happen. So hats off to them as well. Take care. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
And what we're going to do now in just the next few minutes is we're going to take a break, and we want to be able to pivot over to our last presentation, which my colleague and friend, Shabu Jose, will be leading that conversation. We look forward to that. We think you'll find that to be great. It's going to be at 105 Central. So please join us at that point for our closing session. I do want to remind folks this afternoon, for those of you that are CARET delegates, you will have a session later on this afternoon. There's a link there for you to drop into. We hope you'll be a participant in that. The research directors in the North Central region will also be meeting this afternoon. Note to our colleagues in Extension, we are not going to meet this afternoon. We're going to be meeting at our regular time later in the month per Robin Shepard and John Lawrence and others. So we'll be doing that a little bit later this month. So we will not be meeting this afternoon. And then my understanding is the academic program section will be meeting on their regular time as well. So not this afternoon. So you have there'll be two of those sessions this afternoon. Again, the research directors along with the CARET reps meeting this afternoon. And again, I just want to thank everybody for their participation today. In a few minutes, we'll take a quick break. I'll probably have some video footage here for you to see. And then we will come back at 1:05 for our final session today, a general session, as again, Dr. Shabu Jose will be joining us and leading that session. So look forward to seeing you then.